Hello, and welcome to Venezuelan Adventures, the final edition. What you're about to see was filmed in and around a little town called Ananco, Venezuela. It was filmed from June 18th through the 25th, 1996. This is the story of Steve and Heather Gunn in the last 4 years of their ministry in Venezuela. I'm Dave Mobile.
And I'm Steve Hungerford. And we had the privilege of sharing with Steve and Heather their entire life as we were there. We poked our cameras in and around every aspect of what they did. And we're privileged now to share that with you.
That's right. We're going to begin with a little interview we did with Steve as we were sitting in his backyard. This is where he shares with us his vision and his ministry. So Steve, what was your original vision for coming to Venezuela?
You know, Heather and I were really challenged by the fact that here in Venezuela, as in many parts of Latin America, the church in some cases has grown fairly rapidly, but people have cycled in and right out the back door because there hasn't been anybody who's been really capable of helping them along to grow in their Christian life. And so when we were invited to come here by several different churches in the area to help build their leadership and help their leadership do a better job of training and discipling the people and reaching this community for Christ, we jumped at the opportunity. And so that's how the vision started, to come and to help the people here do a better job of reaching their community for Christ.
As the vision began to be accomplished, the most noticeable change was seeing a new generation of Christians thinking biblically.
For 45 years here, ever since the gospel arrived in Anaco, the churches have competed instead of cooperated. For the first time in history now, there are some churches that are beginning to cooperate because the Bible talks much more clearly about cooperation in God's family than competition.
Steve took me to the Bible Institute where he teaches. Several years ago, he started his own institute. Later, some of the local leaders caught the vision, and Steve's institute joined with them to form a nationally recognized Bible Institute.
We realized shortly after we got here that there was absolutely no Christian reading or resource material, not even a magazine that a Christian could read. And so, again, through some generous donations of some friends in the States, we were able to subscribe to several Christian magazines, which we receive here, and also buy some really quality Christian reading and resource materials, which people are free to check out for 2 weeks at a time. Some are Bible study helps, some are just good Christian books, some by some well-known authors in the States, and they've been translated into Spanish. And it's been good. It's been really good, and it's another first.
The library, combined with the Bible Institute, are providing the fertile soil needed to accomplish the vision. It's amazing to see these people grow.
On Thursday nights from 9 to 9:30, on an AM station here in Anaco, we have a half an hour of Christian programming, music. I have a little spot where I answer a call-in question about the Bible, about the Christian life, and little words of counsel and so forth. A first in all of the history of Anaco, as far as I know. And then also on Sunday mornings from 7:30 to 8 in the morning on an FM station, which is very powerful, has very large listening audience. We just were given free, donated, a half hour to do anything we wanted. And we have that half hour of Christian programming. We play good music. I have a little spot called Words of Wisdom, where we give a little Bible counsel every Sunday morning. And it's great.
A nosotros nos burlan.
The joys of Latin greetings.
Another area of incredible unity among the churches is in the area of outreaches, and one of the newest forms of outreach is a puppet ministry that started about a year ago.
Well, we got to thinking together about the fact that we needed to do something to create attention, to grab people's attention. So the idea of creating a puppet team was born. Some people in the States generously donated us 8 puppets, and we made some more here. So we have about a dozen puppets, and they're great. They're like a magnet. Every time we set up on the street, people come out of the woodwork to see those things. And, you know, they're just little dolls, but with those kids' hands in them, moving them, they share the gospel incredibly, and people respond. 3 years ago, doing puppets to share the gospel would have been almost anathema, almost heresy. But they're thinking differently now, which for me is super exciting. At the end of the puppet show, one of the puppeteers came up live with the puppet and said a prayer which the children could repeat if they wanted to get saved.
The puppets are just one area in which evangelism has been changing. When people in Venezuela think about evangelism, they think about hell, fire, and brimstone, because that's the way it's been done here for years. The new way is talking about God's love and grace, which calls for personal contacts and for relationships to build.
On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, a group of young people came up from Anaco each day to talk with the people in the community and pass out flyers. This town is fairly virgin. I guess that's the word I would use. There's very little gospel witness here. And we've never done any ministry here in this town at all. It's a brand new experience for us, so I have no idea what to expect. Another first would be a music group that's been born. It functions along with the puppet ministry, and together they're called Despertar. We travel across Venezuela together. We're a group of about 15 people. Very rarely in Venezuela, and never out of Anaco and in this area, has there been an itinerant evangelistic group. And really that's what Despertar is. And it's been born right here in Anaco recently, and it's a first. The music group takes very seriously the music, practice all the time, and we've been really blessed in our efforts. We have tons more invitations all the time than we can accept. To help churches with evangelism, churches that plan campaigns, invite us to come and be a part of their campaign, almost always out on the street.
Prepárate. Si una vez tú le recibiste, ¿por qué le rechazas ahora? Es contigo que hablo, tú que me estás escuchando. ¿Es que acaso te atraen mucho las cosas de este mundo? Pero recuerda, la Biblia dice, el mundo y sus deseos pasan, pero el que hace la voluntad de Dios permanece para siempre.
Cristo viene pronto, prepárate, prepárate. Cristo viene pronto, lo llevará, lo llevará. ¿Qué espera de ti si tú duermes? ¿Qué será? Despiértate, 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 despiértate.
I'd like people to know how very appreciative we are of their support. And I'm not just talking finances here. I'm talking, prayer, letters, birthday cards, occasional phone calls, a lot of things that have just helped us to keep plugging. And it's hard to express that appreciation in letters. You do the best you can, but it's hard to get that across. And I really want people to know that. The other thing that I would want them to know is just how appreciative we are of and how much we count on their prayers for us and for what we're involved in. I'm not going to preach here, but I'm convinced that if there's one single key, that's been it. And I could tell you story after story after story of how God has blessed us here just incredibly, almost beyond belief sometimes. And I know that it's not because of great education or great abilities or great gifts or great anything else. It's because we have just a lot of people who really care about us and take seriously praying for us.
Well, that's pretty exciting stuff. It seems that Steve and Heather have accomplished a lot in the last 4 years. And Dave, I know you've been down there about 3 times, right?
Yeah, about 3 times in the last 4 years.
Well, then what kind of changes have you seen in the people as they've developed in their faith?
Well, Steve, I think I can boil it down into 3 main areas that I've noticed. The first area would be the area of boldness. People have grown so much spiritually since the first time we were there. It's really great to see when somebody has grown like that. The second area comes off the area of boldness, and from boldness and knowing what a Christian is and what a Christian does, people just naturally begin to mobilize for evangelism. And under Steve's direction, there's been some incredible outreaches happening there. The third area, and the final area, which I could boil it down to, is the relationships that Steve and Heather have developed with the people. Ministry comes out of relationships, and that's what makes ministry stick. In fact, after the break, we're going to take a closer look at one of the relationships that Steve has developed.
Just off Highway 15, due south from the Atlantic coast of Venezuela, lies the little South American town of Anaco. And in the heart of town, just off Main Street, you'll find Anaco's Central Market. It's a busy place at a slow pace where people come together and deals get done. You can get everything from hardware to hats, fruit to some of the freshest fish around, and of course, price is always negotiable. So when you go there, bring a smooth tongue and an eye for a bargain. But don't bring your American Express, because at Anaco's Central Market, they don't take American Express.
Take Visa?
No.
No Visa?
No.
Take Visa?
No.
No Visa? Take Visa? No Visa? Take Visa? You take Visa? You take Visa?
And they don't take Visa either. Visa. It's nowhere you want to be.
Welcome back. You know, as long as I've known Steve Gunn, he's put a high priority on the importance of relationships. In fact, for several years before Steve and Heather went to Venezuela, I had the privilege of sitting under Steve's guidance in youth ministry. Both my wife Kit and I have learned and grown a lot from the relationship that Steve and Heather have had with us, as well as the examples that they set for us.
As we talked to Steve and Heather and watched their lives, we realized that even though they had transplanted their ministry to Venezuela, they had not lost their emphasis on building relationships as a means for discipleship. What follows now is the story of one of those relationships and its potential to make a difference on a worldwide evangelistic scale. In 1993, a man named Wilmer was one of the top 3 marathon runners in all of Venezuela, with his sights set firmly on the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. And barring unforeseen injury, he seemed sure to qualify. But when I first met Wilmer and his recent bride Kayla in the summer of 1996, he talked not of Olympic glory, or even running in general. Rather, he showed me a t-shirt symbolic of his new passion, reaching the world for Jesus Christ. The t-shirts were for his new evangelistic ministry called HEPA, an acronym meaning Jesus is passing by here. I asked Wilmer if he hoped to reach all of Venezuela with the gospel.
Yes, and the whole world.
He had his hopes set high, and, well, I believed he could do it. I then asked him if he had always had this passion to see others saved, or if it was something relatively new in his Christian walk.
When I was first saved, I wanted to stand on the street corner and tell everyone that would listen that Satan was a liar.
What has happened since Steve's arrival, Steve and Heather's arrival, that has helped you kind of crystallize your vision for HEPA?
Steve does not like publicity, but I think everyone should know that I have been helped a lot by Steve and Heather being here, not only from their counsel and what they've been able to teach us, but also from their example, their lives, and not just for me, but also my wife and for a lot of other people too. For example, Steve has helped me for the first time to be able to interpret the Bible correctly. A lot of people, because of ignorance or emotion or for whatever reason, don't understand the Bible very correctly at all. And Steve has really been able to help us do that.
So then has that helped add to your vision for HEPA to see the world saved?
A ministry of this magnitude requires a lot of things, but 3 things are key: order, care, and seriousness. And these 3 things we've learned from Steve and Heather.
As we continued to talk, I realized that I might be looking at the next Luis Palau. This man had that intangible passion to see the world come to know Christ. And those thoughts were confirmed to me when we went to an evangelistic campaign where Wilmer was to be one of the main speakers. There I watched him throughout the course of the night. First, he prayed as he waited his turn to speak. Then he preached with power, and the people listened.
Pecado, bien, dale un fuerte aplauso al Señor. Tú necesitas de Dios. Tú necesitas de Dios. Pienses lo que pienses, tú necesitas de Dios. No hay excusa delante del Señor. Ayer me decía un muchacho.
Next, he would go work the crowd as the music team Despertar sang some more songs. Steve Gunn would later tell me it was Wilmer's habit to talk to the people individually to try to convince them to accept Christ, to try to convince them that they needed a Savior. Then he would come back for a simple invitation, and people responded. He prayed some more, and people responded.
Dice, Dios mío, que tú, Señor, nos diste esa autoridad en este momento, Dios mío, ahora y siempre, Padre, para orar por los enfermos. Y la Biblia dice que para el que cree, todo le es posible, Señor. Podemos a nuestros hermanos.
Wilmer, tell me, how did it feel to preach to the crowd tonight? A little bit like Jesus and the multitude?
¿Cómo te sentiste esta noche predicándole a la gente? Quizá algo como Jesús cuando él estaba predicándole a la multitud.
Oye, me sentí, yo creo que como debería sentirse o como se sintió Jesús, lleno de amor por esas almas. Y aún en el primer llamado, cuando no pasaron, yo sabía que iban a pasar, porque yo sé que Dios tiene misericordia de quien Él quiere tener misericordia.
I felt full of love for the people, and even after I made the first invitation and nobody responded, I knew in my heart that later on in the night people were going to respond.
Dile que el propósito de Dios es que todos procedan al arrepentimiento.
God's will is that everyone repent.
Y un predicador tiene que tener esa convicción.
And a preacher has to have that conviction.
Si el predicador no tiene esa convicción, nada va a pasar.
If the preacher doesn't have that conviction, nothing's going to happen.
Él tiene que creer que todos van a pasar a aceptar a Cristo.
The preacher has to think in his mind that everybody's going to come forward.
Si no lo cree, no pasa nada.
If he doesn't believe it, nothing's going to happen.
Super, excelente. Tell me, why do you do this? Why? What's your motivation?
¿Por qué lo haces?
Creo que me llamó a hacerlo. La Biblia dice que los llamamientos de Dios y los dones del Espíritu son irrevocables. No se pueden anular y no se pueden evadir ni tampoco destruir. Dios llama y Dios aprueba el camino.
God called me to do this. You can't deny God's call on your life. You can't reject it. He's the one that called me to do it, and that's why I do it.
Excellent. Wilmer, it was great. He felt called of God to do a job. Still, I couldn't help but wonder if he had regrets about giving up his Olympic dream. So after going to his mother's home, where Wilmer showed me his many trophies, I had to ask. Do you regret giving this all up for the gospel, for the cause of Jesus?
No, I don't regret it. It does not really make me sad, but sometimes when I see the competition, others running, it tugs at my heart because I love to run.
Tell me once again about the your vision for HEPA, for evangelizing the world.
I feel like God got me into running for a special reason. When I started running, I was thinking, I'm going to conquer the world through athletic competition. And now I have the same mindset, but with a much different goal. Now, instead of conquering the world through running, I want to conquer the world for Christ through the new ministry of HEPA.
Just as we were about to leave, I found out that none of Wilmer's family had come to know salvation, despite Wilmer having clearly communicated the gospel to them on several occasions.
It's hard because they've seen the change in my life, and they've heard the gospel from me, and yet they're still hard. But God is the one who has to break them down, and we're waiting for Him to do it. And I'm confident that through prayer, they're going to come to know the Lord.
Wilmer Gonzalez, a man, like all of us, with his share of sadness and longings, and dreams pushed aside by the realization of the truly urgent. A man longing to see his own family saved, while dreaming of a planet pregnant with the heavenly cries of newborn babes in Christ. A man with vision and passion. A vision and passion that has been honed and chiseled and polished in large part due to the relationship forged with Steve and Heather Gunn during the last 4 years in Anaco, Venezuela. Relationships do make a difference.
You know, as I watched Wilmer speaking, I had goosebumps all over. I couldn't help but to just get the sense that God is going to do some big things through this man.
Oh, no question about that.
His vision with HEPA, the worldwide vision that he has, only God could put something like that in somebody's mind.
Yeah, it's hard to be around Wilmer for very long and not catch a piece of that enthusiasm, that passion for ministry. But the honing of that passion, of that enthusiasm, the focusing of that vision, he owes in large part to Steve and the relationship that he and his wife have developed with Steve and Heather over the years. Now, when we come back, we've got an exciting thing for you. We're going to check into Heather's role in ministry and her struggle and Steve's struggle to keep family life a priority.